Hi, and welcome to this 4NAV coffee break. My name is René Brummel. I'm a product specialist at 4NAV, and I will be your presenter today. As this coffee break is live, you can ask your questions via the GoToWebinar question window. We will answer them at the end of the coffee break. Today, we're going to get multiple records from related Business Central tables without writing code. We looked at how we can get a single related record from Business Central in an earlier coffee break. However, we can also get multiple records from the Business Central database. To do this, we have to configure our records, and then we can use this data with a little bit of scripting. Let's go and have a look. To demonstrate getting multiple related records from Business Central tables, I'm going to use these steps. The prerequisites, what do I need to get going? In step 2, I will configure our record. In step 3, I will display these records. In step 4, I will filter my results by JavaScript value. Let's start with the first step. Today, I will work in a Business Central on-premise server with the Business Central 2022 Wave 2 release. I have installed the Universal Code version of the 4NAV customizable report pack, and I have executed the step-by-step wizard from the assisted setup to get started. Of course, everything I do today is also available in the Business Central Cloud environment. I also have the 4NAV Designer installed on my PC. The 4NAV Designer can be downloaded from the 4NAV website. The functions we will use today are available in 4NAV version 7 or above. The first thing we will do is to configure a record property to get our data. That's as easy as setting some filters and a max iteration on a record. The max iteration property works slightly different to the max iteration property on a data item. In a JavaScript record, you cannot set max iteration to 0 to get all of the records. When you set max iteration to 0 or 1, you get one record. The maximum number of records you can get is 100. If you need more records, we advise you to use a data item. So enough talk, let's go over to Business Central because I've set up a demo for us to play with. There is Business Central, and in Business Central I have a posted sales invoice, and this specific posted sales invoice, there we go, for John Haddock, has some comments, and these comments are 3 separate records inside a table, and I would like to have these comments displayed on my invoice. So the first thing we need to do obviously is to figure out what is going to be the page property. So I will inspect my pages and data. And if I do that, you will notice that I'm on the sales command line table. That's something that I need to know. And also that I have a couple of primary keys. I have, in our case, the document type, which is going to be important. We only want the lines for the posted invoices. And the number is going to be important because we want the lines for this specific invoice. So once we know that, we can find our 4NAV report in the standard 4NAV reports list. I'm just going to work on the standard 4NAV invoice. In the standard invoice, everything is still connected to the master report, which is fine. I will leave that as it is. The only thing I'm going to do is find my records property, and inside this record property you will notice we have the company information and the 4NAV setup, and there I am going to add a new record, which is going to be the sales command line table 44 like we noticed before. Then we are going to set the link reference, and the link reference is going to specify how I am going to filter this sales command line table, and I will filter this by header via the sales invoice header, which means that I can specify the link, which is going to be number, which is the original document number on the sales command line. I'm going to link to the document number field on the sales invoice header. So that's my actual data item link set. Now, like we noticed before, we need to add some filters because we only want the sales command lines for the document type of posted invoice. And that's done. And then finally, We are going to set a max iteration. Like I said, by default it is 1, which means you only get a single record. I'm going to set it to 10 for now, because that's more than enough for my demo. Like I said, maximum number of records you can get is 100. So I'm ready with this. I'm going to hit OK, and that's going to be my record done. And now we know how to get the sales command line records. We can read the data from those multiple records and display them in the report layout. So to do that, let's go back to 4nav. And obviously the first thing we need is a place where we can add this stuff. So I will add a new header to my invoice, which is going to be the comment header. This header is going to get the can-grow property set to yes, so it doesn't matter how much text I'm going to push into it, I always will have enough space. I'm going to add a text box right there. I'll make the text box yellow so it stands out a little bit. And this text box is also going to get can-grow set to true, so we'll set the text alignment to top left and can-grow set to yes. Now that's a lot of stuff to get some real estate, and now obviously we need to get the actual data. To get the data, in the I'm going to work on the header onPreData item trigger, which is a place where I can write a little bit of JavaScript. And the first thing I'm going to do is declare a variable to store my comments in. So I'm going to read my comments. I'm going to store them inside this variable. In this variable, I'm going to use an empty array as this variable. So that's the first step. On the second step, in the onAfterGetRecord, that's where the header data item has been read from the database. That's where I'm going to need to write some more script, because that's where I'm going to actually read the sales command lines and store them in my variable. So the first thing I will do is reset my variable. If I print more than one invoice at the same time, I need to reset my variable. Then the first step is going to be if sales command line field extension comment has value. So if I actually have a comment in my line, I'm going to push the sales command line comment into my comments array. And then I do a while sales command line next. So as long as I get a next line, I'm going to do the same thing, comments.push with sales command line comment. So this will first bit will push the first sales command line in my array, and this bit will push all of the other sales command lines in my array until I have read the last sales command line that fits into my filter, or if I reach 100 record, whichever comes first. So that's that. So now I have these sales comments in a JavaScript variable. I can actually use them, and I can use them by opening the source expression of this text box, and I will type comments.join, and a join property on an array will join these all of these individual strings in my array together based on a separator, and that separator is going to be \n, and the \n in JavaScript is going to give us a new line. And if I have that done, I can preview. There we go. So that's the first step done. I get my sales command lines in my sales header, and you will notice, because I set can grow to true on everything, my text box grows with the length of my data. And obviously I used a \n to separate my lines. You can use a normal space or a comma or anything else you would possibly like in order to separate your lines and build up your text. Finally, we can address one of the things that's a bit harder to do. We can only filter our records by values from a single related table. So we cannot filter our records by a value we declare in JavaScript or by a value from a second related table. However, we can load partly filtered information in a JavaScript array, and we can filter that later. And to explain what I mean with that, I'm going to have a look at one of the items on my invoice. That is 8908. And item 8908, if I open the related properties, has some extended text. You will notice you can have these extended text in a number of different languages. And now this is a demo system, so I have a number of different English languages. I have English UK and English US. And if I look at the English UK, you will notice this has a bunch of texts. And these are the texts that I would like to have on my invoice. Underneath every item, as long as that specific item has some extended text. So you will notice if I find the properties of this, the page inspection of this table, you will notice that I have a table name, which is item. I have a number 8908W, which is the item number. I have that, and I have the language code. Now this table will have entries in more than one language code. And the only trouble is that the number is on the lines table and the language code is on the header table. So I need to filter this by by entries from two separate tables. I just told you we can't by default, so we need to pull some tricks. So let's go to 4nav and pull some tricks. The first thing, of course, is the same thing I did before. I need to add my extended text line. So I'll find my extended text line. The item link reference is going to be the line because I need to filter by item number. That's going to get me the least amount of records. And the link is pretty simple. Number is going to be linked to the sales line number, which is going to be the item. So that's the first thing I need to do. That gets me my extended text. And in this extended text, of course, I need to specify some further filters based on constant values. So that's going to be the table name is going to be item. So I'm only interested in records from items. So that is fine. I'm going to specify a second filter because on a sales line you can have sales line that's an item or general ledger account or a comment or whatever. And I only want this specific extended text line for items. So I'm going to specify a parent filter which is going to say .number type is going to be item. So this will only get my records for the specific item lines. And then of course I need to set my max iteration. I'm going to set it to 10 because I know I've only got 4 records that I'm going to get by maximum. But as I said, you can get up to 100. So that's it. I've got my extended text line linked to my item number, filtered by source table item, set the parent filter, and I've set max iteration to 10. So that's that. Then in my header, obviously I need some real estate in order to place my extended text. And I always give my sections comprehensible names because that makes it easier to inherit them from a master report. Again, can grow is going to be set to yes. Again, grab a text box. Again, this text box needs to be able to grow as well, so set the text to top left, can grow to yes. Background color to yellow. So that's the first bit. I've got the place where I want to store my data. Then, like I did with the comment headers, I'm going to get my data into a local variable. And that's going to be, that's the wrong one. So the variable is going to be extended text, and once again that's going to be an empty array. Then in the on after get record, I will have a look and I will quickly type some code there as well. We do the same thing. First thing we do is we clear the extended texts, so we get a clear array every time we get a new line from the database. Then first step is going to be if extended text line field extensions that number has value. So if I actually have some data inside my extended text line, I'm going to extend to push my data into the extended text, and this time I'm not going to push just a single string. I'm going to push an object with a number of properties. So the object has a number, extended text line number, a line number, the actual text, and the language code, which means that I can now filter this array based on any of these properties, which means I can filter my array based by language code, which is exactly what I need because the language code is on my header, not on my line. And again, I do the while extended text line dot next. So that's the next bit. Then we are going to add the actual filtering that we are going to need. And the actual filtering is a function, a JavaScript function, and JavaScript functions we typically place in the onPre report. So let's quickly type that. So I've got a new function, getExtendedText. This getExtendedText has two variables, text lines and language codes, and this will simply get a result by doing a textLine.filter, where textLine gets filtered by textLines.languageCode is the variable language code. And once I'm done, I'm going to return result.map, which means that I'm going to map the results for for the text property of the object, and I'm going to join that with the \n, the new line character again. Then I can call my function. So I call the function getExtendedText. I'm going to give that the property extended text. So I'm going to give the extended text as a variable into my function. And the second variable is going to be the header.language code. Like I said, I can't filter one record based by two source tables, so I can't filter by item number and language code at once, so I need to filter later on. So get extended text, header.language code. Finally, nearly done. Finally, I want to hide my extended text line body if I don't have any extended text, and for that I can simply open my showOutput property of this specific section, and I will say extended text dot length is greater than 0. So if I have any extended text, this section is going to be displayed. Let's preview to see if everything has worked. There we go. We now have two text lines in English. The actual language of this specific sales invoice is in English, so I get these two text lines in English. The only thing you need to be careful of course, is that by doing this you get more data than you will actually need. If you have 20 languages in your system, each with 2 lines, then you will get 40 lines of records from your database, which obviously you read more data than you need, may slow things down a little bit. So if you have a lot of data that you are going to get, then this is not really a valid option. But since most people only have 1 or 2 languages in the system anyway, this is something that for these smaller data sets will work fine. If you have a bigger data set, then we would advise you to use a temporary data item and use some AL code to get all of your data inside your temporary data item and read that in your standard 4nav report. So let's recap what we just did. The first thing we did was to use a JavaScript record to get multiple records from the database. We had to set the data item link properties to filter the record, and we set the max iteration property to get multiple records from the database. We used the next function to iterate over these records. Finally, we found that we can only filter these records by values in their parent record or by constants. To filter a record based on values from 2 tables or by a JavaScript variable, we had to load the data into a JavaScript array and filter that instead. Thank you very much for listening to me so far. Let's have a look and see if we have any questions. We don't have any questions at the moment, so I will wrap up this coffee break. If you want to know more about 4nav, or if you want to download the 4nav Designer and Converter, please visit our website. If you want to install 4nav in Business Central Cloud, please visit the Microsoft App Source. You can watch more videos about 4nav on our YouTube channel. If you have any questions about 4nav, please email them to support@4nav.com. For a full list of upcoming and recorded coffee breaks, please visit 4nav.com/coffeebreak. Thank you very much for listening. Goodbye.